right, stat students, we're going to go over how to interpret some of these aspects of the line of best fit. So if we remember, there are a lot of things that we're looking at when we talk about scatter plots and the best fit line. We look at the equation, we look at the graph, we look at the correlation, which is this R, and we get all these aspects from it. So when we do these interpretations, I have given you frameworks that you can use to talk about them. So if we go down here, so these frameworks are going to be here at the top of the worksheet. And then we go down and actually take a look at the questions. So the first question is interpreting R. All right. And we have this example here where we've got this data from countries. The explanatory is average number of glasses of wine consumed per week. The Y, the response is number of deaths from heart disease. Okay. So that's the context. All right, now we want to take a look at the numbers and what do those mean. So if R, where am I looking at? R is right here, negative 0.44. What does that mean? Well, let's go back to the interpretations part and see what it tells me. Okay, so in this diagram, this kind of talks about R values. We said R was negative 0.44. So if I'm looking at this number line, negative 0.44 is right here. So if I'm going to talk about R, I've got a couple things that it's telling me, right? One, it's weak, and two, it's negative. So when I think about the things that I want to include in my sentence, when I use this sentence here, I'm going to say that it's weak, which is the strength, because that's where it falls in this framework. And the direction is negative. So I would put that there. Okay, and that's the idea. The next piece to this is that we want to always include our context. So we go back and talk about what's the X and what's the Y. So we'll go back to the problem to do that. Okay, so let's actually now, to answer this question, highlight this in your worksheet. This is the easiest way to do it, so you don't have to always like rewrite it. You can just highlight all of this and copy it. Control C is the shortcut to copy things, Control and the letter C. All right, when I do that, I take that down to this section here, right? And now I can include that here. And Control V, as in Victor, is what gets me that. So I need to change now the things that we talked about up there, right? With a negative 0.44, we said the strength, it's weak. We said the direction is negative. What's our context? You can look at the equation of the line where it says glasses of wine and deaths, that's enough, or we can just copy off of the table, right? Between number of glasses of wine and number of deaths. All right, we've got the idea down, we've got the context, everything is done for that. All right, next sentence is interpret the slope. So where do we find the slope? The slope class is always next to the x. And when we look at these problems, we see that there's a couple numbers that we're going to look at, right? That's the 255. Okay. And the negative 16.8. You're used to looking at an equation of the line and seeing y equals mx plus b, right? So that first number is always the slope, but the slope is always what's next to the x. And if this is my x, in stats we like to use context, so they write it out instead of using that letter x. The slope is right here. okay? So to interpret that slope, we go back to the top where we have that sentence and we copy the sentence again. And you see there's some places that we want to fill in the blanks. Those are highlighted with an underline. All right, so you highlight that, you copy, come down here, and you paste in the answer. Control V. Okay, so we need to change the things that are specific to this problem. So the first thing is the X context. If I look at the problem, the X is average number of glasses of wine, right? So we put in number of glasses of wine where it says X context. The next thing we wanted to change is the Y context. That's got to be put in for this problem. What's our Y? It's number of deaths. Okay. And then are we increasing or decreasing with this trend? Well, if I look at the line, you can see that it's going down. So that's decreasing. If I look at the slope, it's negative. That's also a decreasing piece. So I eliminate increasing and just leave decreasing because we are going down by, I don't want that. We are going down by how much? It says the slope is 16.8 and it's negative. So if you put negative in, that's great. If you don't need to because you put decreasing. Okay, done. We identified the slope, we wrote the sentence, that's it. We adjusted the things that we needed to adjust. The next part was this y-intercept, right? That's the number that's by itself. Okay, that's always how it's going to be, no matter the order, right? So if y-intercept's 255, you can even see that on the graph, right? That would be right here. Okay, what do we say about y-intercept? Well, we can go back to the top again and see that this is the framework. When we talk about y-intercept, it always happens when x is 0. So we go up there, we highlight that, we plug in for number 3, and we copy. See if it works. Now we can change the things we need to change, right? So again, y-axis, the x context we said was number of glasses of wine, and that's 0. The predicted number of deaths, which is our y, was what? Well, we go back to the number. The number is 255.5. And that hashtag is actually a number symbol. Before it was a hashtag. So that's what, when you see that, it's actually talking about number, not a post on Instagram or Twitter. Okay? So you put the number in there, 255.5. So you've got these interpretations. That's just a copy and paste and fill in the blank. The last question, does the y-intercept make sense in the context of this problem? You have to think about this in terms of real life. What did we say the y-intercept was? It was 255. That's the number of deaths when wine consumption is 0. When we actually, as like people had 0 glasses of wine on average. So can that happen in real life? Can you have a group of people that don't consume wine? Absolutely, that's possible. And can you have deaths from heart disease if no one consumes wine? Yeah, you can, because you know that could be caused by other things. So because both of those numbers could happen in real life in this context, for this problem we say yes, because it is possible to have okay, it is possible to have a country, right? What are we talking about here? It said that we took this data from countries. Sorry, I'm freezing up here, but yeah, talking about countries. It is possible to have a country that consumes no wine, that has 0 glasses of wine and deaths of 255.5 in real life. That's what we're talking about. Okay. So when you do this problem, you can always reference, and I've pasted this in multiple places in this worksheet. You can always reference this question here. To answer this, you must think about, can the x be 0, and can the number for the y-intercept actually happen in real life? Okay, so use that, all right, and practice the other 2 sets of problems all the way to number 12. Good luck.